Good afternoon. We are here today to discuss and deliberate about design for now and the future. I have with me here Anuj from Baroda, and I have Amit
Hello.
Sheth, an old friend and I would say mentor as well. So I would like Amit Bhai to introduce himself in his own words, and then we'll proceed with the questions.
Thanks, Gauri. You put me into a right spot. Toughest question could be introducing oneself. But anyway, Amit Sheth, as Gauri just mentioned. I essentially look at myself as a tinkerer. I love doing things, making things, breaking them down as well. Yes, I've got a string of degrees. I have done a consultancy for a few decades. I've been teaching for a few decades, and that's also something I enjoy quite a bit.
We're joined also by Anup.
Hi.
And he joins us as a co-host today. It's something that we came up with together. We wanted to have more discussions on design and bring design and industrial design more to the fore. So we hope that this series will bring more knowledge to the table. Today's topic is about future of design in India, predictions and hopes. And I'm going to grill Amit Bhai a little bit about it. So the first question would be, looking back to keep forward, in your view, what's one of the most iconic designs or products from India's past that will inspire innovation today?
See, if I look at India's past and look at the products that we have, and I'm going quite far back, quite far back, and the only product which really inspires me is the lota, honestly. When you think about the lota, notwithstanding that Charles Eames wrote an entire treatise on it, that is fine. But that is one product which is society caste agnostic. Everybody needs a device to hold either liquids or any small solids,
yeah.
right? The lota is one which has a beautiful shape. You can make it by hand, you can use mechanized methods. It's sustainable. The sizes could be something that tiny or huge enough for a wedding dinner, for example. And that is something I think we should not forget. That is a huge contribution from our entire community to the rest of the world. And that really inspires me. I think we need to come out with a product on those lines.
So dreaming of the future, if you could design or build anything without limitations, yeah, financial, technological, or otherwise, what would you do and why would you do it?
Well, I can't say that I would
And
shut down.
for the Indian market. that
Yeah.
is.
I can't say let's shut down all the universities and relook at it. I don't think it's going to be
But it's worth it.
like it. It's worth it. So the option I would recommend, and it's a doable thing, it's started in a small way, but not at the impetus that it should be having, is I would start tinkering centers everywhere, which is a mix of, it's something, a bit of an exploratorium, the Vikram Sarabhai Science Center, the Fab Labs or maker spaces which are there, but not only stick to STEM. I'm looking at also the humanities. A
STEAM, it's called STEAM.
STEAM, exactly. So there should be STEAM centers where young kids, older kids and adults can go and have a very interesting time and not be glued to that little black device which they have in their hand all the time.
Yeah.
And this, I think, will lead to a lot more innovation, a lot more clarity of what to do in life, and encourage people to try different things.
I had hoped actually that a lot of the science museums would become like that.
Yes.
Because one came up in Surat, then we had Science City come up here, and I thought that is what it would do. Bring in the people to play with science and experiment. Because of course, when you go abroad, you go to these kind of museums, and they're so interactive.
Absolutely.
And even things like blowing a bubble, a soap bubble, but doing it at a larger scale, and what that means, and you learn about tension and you learn about all these things, which somehow even our basic education system we miss. So when Law Garden got this tap floating in air and the water pouring down, millions of people from all across the city and maybe out of town also came to see how this was happening. You know, this miracle that was done. But it's so simple. If you have that right background from childhood, that you would know that there is a pipe, you know, see-through pipe, and that's holding it all up.
It's just to add to what you're saying. I don't know if you know about this, but the world's cheapest microscope was developed by Community Science Center and a group called Dynam in Bangalore. I'm talking about the late 60s. On my 4th birthday, my father gifted me a microscope. It cost 12 rupees and 40 paisa in those days. I believe it's available today for about 200 rupees, which is still nothing.
Yes, very affordable.
Right, very affordable. 60x is the power, so you can see the hairs on a leg of an ant.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's amazing. We need a lot more these kind of things to be created and made. Unfortunately, the company shut down, which is to manufacture. They had many, many other kits available. And if science kits selling stores in India are shutting down, right? Earlier, it used to be recognized that that's a great return gift.
Yeah.
Today, they say, no, return gifts are nothing. I mean, they have to be very fancy and fashionable items, and it's rather bizarre.
Yeah.
A sea change is required in the way we.
And curiosity is killed.
It's killed, absolutely.
I will just add a question in the same line. It is not a part of this, but it makes sense. So I always believe that coming from a manufacturing background, you need resources and people to make something, as simple as that. That is the only two functions. So while colleges and universities have good amount of people, from the staff to students, good enough infrastructure and resources to make things, say a mechanical college, why don't we end up making things and selling things from the colleges? It could be just a simple bolt, it could be a simple stopper, but shouldn't a college have, say, 5% of its revenue made from the products which it makes in-house? Because what it will do, it will train the entire line while focusing on the manufacturing and selling side of the story rather than just the creativity.
See, that's a very interesting concept because very recently at my university, Plaksha in Punjab, I was told by the founders that you've developed so many science kits and we're talking with the government when we supply to all the schools of Punjab and then probably North India, these science kits. And I said, okay, we are very good as an R&D lab. We can develop all these things, right? We can test them. Small batch production, yes, but if we are going to manufacturing, you will need a separate setup. The problem is the rules of the government for educational institutions, taxation, now you have GST, all those scenarios will come in.
Okay.
So have a separate
Unit.
setup which looks after manufacturing. So your profs and your people do the development, the students get involved, they test it, they give it to them, they manufacture it, and it goes out. Sure, but that scenario has to be looked at.
So normally speaking, because I got educated in the Netherlands, when new products are developed, they first go to the university and kids are allowed to play with them, test them, etc. and sometimes they improve them. So patents come out jointly in the name of the company and the student very often. This understanding of patents in our country also needs to change, right? People think that I changed, you know, the way this flower is attached to the stem, and so now I can apply for a patent. But it doesn't work like that. And it's very important when you have this drive, that you inculcate this drive to make something in your name and push it out into the world, then always you will be in that mode, right? You don't have to have a Shark Tank to do that. And the university itself is the driver then. So it's something that's inculcated. One is to work in teams and the other is to create in a team. or at least in the way that I will do this part, you deliver that part, and this one delivers
would
that part.
entire thing.
Yeah, and then three of you
Precisely.
would have a win-win
because
situation.
the college would have a MBA guys. The MBA guys would take over the
Yeah,
marketing of the
Yes,
product.
yes.
Arts and science guys would do
Yes.
their kind of stuff for the same product. So
Correct.
In some way, at Plaksha University, we are doing this. We have a transdisciplinary approach to education, right? Design, for example, is compulsory for all the engineers and all the other courses that we offer. So you have people dabbling in various areas, talking to each other. First thing, we need to get to talk to each other. A lot of esteemed institutes in our country, they are all ivory towers. They will just not talk to each other. Now here they talk to each other through a course. I'm happy to say that on an average, our students file for about 2 to 3 patents every year in every level, first year kids with patents. And then we have a system where we encourage startups. There's an entrepreneurship cell. So it sees the light of day, right? Students, when the parents come to them, why are you different, or how are you different? Besides the courses, we train the students in 3 areas, either entrepreneurship or the job market is always there, and third is research. And we put a lot of emphasis on research. And our kids are equally divided, right? And that, I think, is different from other places. So you need more such active institutions coming up.
And as you said correctly, one community science center is not enough.
It's not enough.
For the size of the population we have. And we have very good kids today.
Yes.
They have so much exposure and learning that they can do things. It's just that it's always, how should I say, jacketed. Because it's the trend that parents should send their kids there, they go there. But it should be something that the child should want to go to.
there should be an inherent drive to it.
Yes.
Well, if I just quote Professor Aril Gupta, there's something you learn even from a 4-year-old village kid. It's not a question of degrees and
No, not at all.
Everybody who has been working has an input to give. We've stopped listening.
Yeah.
So we need to talk to each other, we need to listen, and a lot of new ideas will come out. I mean, what we call the Indian jugaad is actually very, very powerful. It's just that we
Need
look
to take
down.
it
You know.
the next step.
Yes.
It's the starting point.
So that is where my last webinar which I shared, Mrudullah ji ke saath. So I came up with very curious thought, or it is somebody else, I cannot remember it, that which is the richest place in the world. So the answer to that is graveyard. Why? Because what you see are the ideas which have been executed.
Right.
That might be just 10% of idea in the world. 90% of ideas are there which have gone and laid dead with those people. So if you evaluate the cost of those 90% idea versus the 10% right now, I believe the graveyard would be the richest place. So it is, I always believe कि ये idea है, मरते तक अगर खुद नहीं कर सकते ना तो दूसरे को देके जा. बहुत लोग को जिनका idea होता है, they don't share because they think that they would use it, but they die and they don't use it. So I have started away giving up some of my designs. ले भैया तू बना सकता है तो बना ले.
As Victor Papanek, his philosophy was not to patent his stuff.
Yeah.
He says, my idea is there. Give me recognition somewhere.
Yeah.
But please use it because this is meant for the masses.
Mass. That is what Elon Musk did with the Tesla cars. Okay. So I will just keeping to the automotive side of things, just to lighten up the things. What do you think about the Jaguar logo?
Honestly, as from a design viewpoint, the way I look at it, I'm not very impressed.
Okay.
I'm not very. This reminds me of the London Olympics 2012, which was Wally Ollins. To me, a disaster. There are quite a few such disasters done by very well-known design firms, and a logo might need a relook or a new look, fair, but this is not. This is more like a fashion icon, the way it's come out.
Okay. Looks good on luxury clothing rather than an automotive brand.
On perfumes.
On perfumes, precisely.
I'm not going to say it looks good on, not on a car. And a powerful beast of a Jaguar, no.
So what was wrong with the old one?
No, sometimes a change is required because it's just been there for very long, and there is this movement towards flat icons, and the 3D is gone, the colors have changed, so everybody feels okay. We should also have a change. Fair enough. I mean, you might think there is a need for a change. Generations have changed. Uh, the differences in our generation is humongous,
Yes.
right? But not this.
How do you see Indian design balancing global trends with the preservation of traditional craftsmanship and regional diversity? Do we really have that, I wonder? To some extent, yes, some
We
regional
have good diversity, yes. We need to sustain our regional craftsmanship, maintain them, honor them, but not duplicate them, not change them, and not go into mass manufacturing. If a craftsman from, say, some region of, say, Madhya Pradesh makes these beautiful lost wax brass articles, let him or her still continue making it. Help out probably in the branding and the packaging. Sure, get a GIS mark for that. Fair enough. But to tell them to know, make an Eiffel Tower using our process, I don't think so. I don't think that's a good idea. To make it I mean, Eiffel Tower is just an example. So they're making animals, they're making birds, they're making religious figures. Fantastic. Let's honor that. I don't believe in mass production of craft articles.
And even if you're doing something with craft, I think somewhere we've lost quality and the finish. Yeah, I was just checking somewhere, and before industrialization, India was the largest exporter. 4% of the world's products came from India. And that immediately changed post industrial revolution, when we became also manufacturers of industrialized goods, and we lost this finesse that we had with our artisans and craftsmanship. So we should have remembered that our strength lay there, and we should not have lost it completely.
That is what he said. Okay, the moment you go into mass manufacturing, everybody will try to cut the cost.
We never went into mass manufacturing at that point. We just
that
shifted
point.
from, let's say, craft products to machine-made products, and which was necessary. We were going to be a new country. We had to feed and clothe and decorate so many homes, etc.
We've had infiltration. We've got Kachi handicrafts being
Yeah.
made by Chinese companies
Yeah.
and sold next to the Kachi handicraft shop,
Yes.
and people don't know the difference.
So we have a long way to go there
Yeah.
to understand, probably rethink what we want to do. And I think also we sometimes think that every master craftsman and his school of labor are all artisans. You need to recognize that there is one person who heads it, and they are the ones who have to be recognized. The rest is just like labor in every other industry.
Also, what we need to do is improve their basic lifestyle. Because of media today, through our mobile phones and the internet, everyone's aspiration levels have gone sky high.
Yeah.
Right? You want more either products or lifestyles or whatever, and of course the craftsman wants it. I mean,
course.
why should he or she be denied that?
Absolutely.
So there has to be a way of having that as well as the craft still surviving. Otherwise, his students and his own children, which is happening, they'll run away to the city. They'll pick up whatever job they can
Yes.
get, in the hope that tomorrow they'll have probably drive an auto rickshaw, then a car, then probably a chauffeur driven car or whatever.
Yeah, but I have seen now several of these master craftsmen who have created that space for themselves.
Okay.
And are going around the world doing workshops and things like that, and have made that name and position for themselves and their craft. So it is doable.
Exactly, it is doable.
right? If you see the guys from Patan with the Patola, who
Patola.
set up their own museum
Yeah.
and have branded themselves,
Yes.
right? If you see Jabbar Bhai from Dhamadka,
Dhamarka.
who has also positioned himself as such and is gaining his
True.
position in the world, and his innovations that he is doing are getting recognized. So it is possible.
Yep.
And I think the only way to do it is also leave them to find that way. Right? All we can do is kind of nudge them along in the right time and the right places. But don't take over what they're doing.
No, definitely not. And not train, so-called retrain them from your way of
Yeah.
looking at a product.
So keeping on the same lines, because they have aspirations, so a lot of skilled guys will move to the city for a better job.
Yeah.
But coming back to the point now, we are seeing a lot of debate by huge directors, big names, like somebody X and somebody Y. 70 hour, 90 hour, what will you do staring at X or somebody else? So this would cause a reverse migration, is what I suspect. And people would find, some of them would find कि यार इससे अच्छा तो अपने घर की रोटी है, and they would at least pick up their old craft. So there would be a phase where there will be a lot of migration, and again, after having some facade broken over of their city lifestyle, they would go back to their roots and pick it up. The problem is just till that blank space, how do we preserve the passover of knowledge? Because maybe my grandson would want to do something which I do very well, but then how do I preserve the knowledge? So one generation doesn't do that, but the next one is there with my skill sets or maybe knowledge. That is the void which I sense sometimes is there. We don't preserve a lot, is what I sense.
But sometimes it still happens that you get a completely new generation entering into a craft and outdoing all the oldies. Yeah. Using the same traditions, using the same thing, but with a better sensibility, because they are able to speak to this generation.
They could connect very well.
Yeah.
I have a feeling this has more happened in the arts, uh, in terms of the, say, music or painting, sculpture, where they've adapted new technologies very easily. It's been a beautiful mix of old and new together, and you have people doing phenomenal work today. But if you look at the older techniques of where we're looking at, say, weaving or basic products of
Block
those
printing
kinds,
or those kinds, yeah.
it has still, I don't see that much new stuff happening. I mean, probably it's difficult to innovate out
Yes.
there.
But I suppose lifestyles, when they will change, that will grow with it. And
Right.
that finesse. Because once upon a time, they were thriving.
They were
right?
thriving.
And they were the so-called who's who in
So
society.
suppose you set up artist communities where you have more people, then there'll be more talking, more discussion, and yes, I can see new ideas coming up.
So what I always
An
used to say,
experiment.
that when the client and the maker are directly in touch, then I think sometimes more happens than with a middle person in the middle.
That is true. True.
So I always think that that works better.
Add to that point, that is my personal everybody would have that. I always believe that when you work with a client, he tries to extract the best out of you. यानी हम खुद से कभी कभी, at least in my line of activity, मैं खुद से कुछ इतना अच्छा नहीं बना पाऊंगा जितना शायद मेरा client मेरे में से, I would be frustrated like hell at some point of time with X client, but if I look back maybe 6 months down the line, I would realize that he has pushed me to next level.
No, that's quite nice, because you need clients who have an ability, one, to give you a lot of freedom, second, to encourage you to experiment, and third, to push you.
Yeah, precisely.
Push you really well. And if it's rare, these clients are really rare, but when you do get them, you look at those outputs and they are really far superior.
Precisely. So if I don't know, if you this might be a personal choice, but all A.R. Rahman good songs are basically from very good directors. You Sanjay Leela Bansal le lo, Subhash Ghai le lo. Or private albums you would like it, but then memory would be always with a Subhash Ghai track or with a Sanjay Leela Bansali track where A.R. Rahman would have featured.
So if we are to design for impact on society, changing society, how do you think design can play a role there? Keeping sustainability in mind, accessibility, you worked a lot on accessibility, and the rate at which India is urbanizing.
I think the first problem is this clarifying the definition of design. All right. For the masses, design is fashion and interiors. And unfortunately, in my book, that's a dead end. You got one chair, you got 1,000 chairs, you got 10,000 chairs, but a chair is a chair. It's meant for you to sit comfortably on. I wear a suit, I wear a kurta. You might change the material, you might change the colors, you might add sequins or whatever. I mean, but to me, that's not critical. That's not, and for a society, no, and for India, definitely not. We need to design products, which is what I call. It's a program I run at the institute, Design for a Billion. So whether you're designing online, a 2D website, or a game, or a physical product, or just a form to fill in the bank, right? It's designed for a billion, which is important. Will the masses be able to intuitively understand and use that product and have as I forgot his name. He would say, have a smile at the end, right? That yes, it was fun working with this product or using the product, or like I said, filling a form.
Yeah.
Right?
Filling the form is the worst thing.
It's the worst thing, right? Examples, I would say the rupee symbol is fantastic. The Aadhaar card, I think, was a great idea, and it has been really well executed. We've got a few more examples, like we've got a good low-cost water purification system by Tata Swatch, if I'm not mistaken, and the D-Light, which is a lantern, a solar lantern. You just keep it out for a few hours and it gives you 6 hours of light at night, which you can cook under or study. You need more such products, and it can easily be done, right? We have to just get the focus of the creative crowd or the thinking crowd or the innovative crowd to shift from the niche areas that they currently work, because they come in the society pages, to mass-produced items, which will really change lives.
Correct. Even just if it was about visual communication, to change mindsets, which is so big a need in our country.
True.
There's so many things going wrong. Even when I speak to students, I always tell them, okay, in interior design, everything's done. What is your generation going to add to the next level? Because how many sofas can you redesign? How many walls can you do? How many cupboards can you do? But the thing is, how are you going to change and improve the way people live? The quality of life, the amount of abuse that happens in homes or at workplaces. How will you design that cannot happen, that you can design that out of your society? So I think that change has to come, and that change has to come from the faculty that is inspiring them to design to that next level. So I'm hoping that at least that kind of little chinks I am able to do when I go into the class. But I also think that today's kids think that they know everything. Very often when you
That is a typical thing.
Yeah.
Everybody used to think in that age that they would know everything.
To me, I think that there's a simple solution for that. Just take the kids on a field trip to the nearest village or a slum or a colony, right? and talk to people. I'm not worried about what strata of society, right? Just talk to people. Go meet them, ask them, think what to ask a few questions, and they will actually start learning about life.
So I introduced this design khazana idea for this very reason.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so there's lots of things that are around us all the time,
right.
and everything's been designed at some point.
Right.
Yeah, whether it's the oil lamp that you do at Diwali, or it's your pan box, or your simple water bottle, because all these drinking water bottles come in so many different shapes and sizes and forms. Think about it. Why would they have done this? Which material did they use? How did they think that this is better than glass or plastic? So when you can do that and get them to start thinking and looking at products, questioning and understanding. So I showed a small box. It had a little hinge, and I said, now you can see that it's been a nail and it's not a screw. How do you see that? Because there's no groove. And to put this little nail in, you cannot come with a big hammer. So obviously, to do this work, you need it to be done delicately. So think about how, when you look at something, all the processes, all the materials, all the things that went into doing this, and when you pick up every product like that and look at it, then you will be able to also think, when you're going to design, of what you should be doing.
True, very true.
So I'm hoping that this kind of bring your thing from home. They thought it was show and tell. I brought a box. No, and then what?
You shared a very beautiful thought about design for a billion. Okay, it reminded me something very close to my heart when I was a budding designer. The beauty of designer is you always are budding. You always are enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is the key. Curiosity is the key.
Yeah.
That is what I always believe. Okay. So that time we used to participate in one very good competition which was based out of Singapore. It was called as GADA, Global Age Disabilities Awareness.
Okay.
So design only focusing to maybe aged guys or disabled guys. So make a bed for an aged person. So my first patent was a bed in which, because if you see, you cannot bend your knee after a certain age. So my bed would come up till here. It would have a handle and then it would recline.
Right.
That's it. It was not doing anything, maybe 10 in one things. Nahi, kuch nahi kar raha tha. So do you think such kind of things should be promoted? Because that thing closed some years back. There is no substitute for those. Now it is all award shows kind of a thing. But how do you focus?
No, it should be promoted, and there are a couple of design awards which have a category for inclusivity. So that is happening. Probably not at the level one would like, but at the individual level, at the institute level, we can always encourage. It's like the 4 product areas where I normally get my students to work on. One is designed for a billion, one is designed for the aged. It just so happens that. Third is medical products, right? And fourth is specific products for inclusivity. One of the 4 you pick up, I am not worried. Let's work on that. They try, they fumble, they fall. Okay. But then we have a system where the project doesn't necessarily stop at the end of the semester in the grading.
It needs to taken over by the next batch.
The same people can come back in their spare time. And we'll provide all the facilities and required to pursue that and make it into a proper product.
Beautiful.
We just need to do that. We should not make it into iodine compartments like semester 1 over, semester 2 over.
Precisely.
And then forget about it.
So, keeping on the same lines of design, I'll just fasten up. I personally have a issue with too many similar icons in Android. So, I am using Android since last, say, many years. But still, I need to scroll 2 pages front, then again 2 pages back to get to the same icon which I get every day. How do we solve that? Because all icons look similar nowadays.
Yeah, but that's also there in Apple. I mean, not very different
So
from Android.
how would we make an improvement onto the icons or Android app?
So here's a challenge. let's see if somebody can think a solution for this.
Precisely. Okay, I'll move on to the last one, which is what are the 3 cheap ways जिसमें पैसा नहीं खर्चा हो, ठीक है, to boost safety on roads, in safety in offices, and likewise safety in public places. खर्चा नहीं कराना है, ये इतना करोड़ का करना नहीं. 3 cheap ways to boost safety on roads, public places, and offices.
Well, you've just hit upon another area of major passion for me, which is wayfinding and signage.
Okay.
All right. If we improve proper wayfinding signs all over, whether it's the roads, the facilities like hospitals, transport hubs, the airports have it, but the others don't. Bus stands don't. Offices, for example, it'll just make navigation so much simpler, not only in normal times, but even in times of crisis. So your chance of accidents will really go down.
Okay.
So one, I would say, and there are various ways of doing it, and they're not necessarily expensive, right? You don't need to put a gold sign, right, or a brass sign. There are much cheaper methods of doing it, which are also which are clean and neat and effective and last reasonably long.
And have been done in other parts of the
And have
world.
been done in other parts of the world, right? Absolutely. Second, I would say, and I would stress on, is education. Education, education, education. We need to constantly educate people in an exciting and innovative manner as to how to take a left turn, or how to stand on the escalator. We don't know these things, right? So we have accidents, we have people pushing people, which again leads to fights and issues. How do you open a door in an office? How do you fix the door handle? What's called, most of our doors have called Norman handles. Now, Norman doors are the ones named after Don Norman, the great designer from the US, where you have the same handlebar on both sides. Now, do you push or you pull? You don't know, right? So if it's push, why can't we have a flat plate? When it's pull, the handle is there to pull. You don't need to put a sign which is push or pull. Now, these are various common mistakes all across all our buildings everywhere in the world. There are many, many such similar things which need to change. We just need to start doing it.
And common sense. There's so much that you can
That
do
is
with
the
common
most
sense.
uncommon thing.
Most
Yeah.
uncommon thing. Most uncommon thing.
So one last question from my end.
Huh.
What's your personal design philosophy?
My personal design philosophy: think simple. Think simple, think clean, and think for the masses. That's what I would believe in, and that's what I do believe in.
Thank you so much for taking this time out on your short visit to Ahmedabad to speak with us. Anup, for coming all the way from Baroda to join us for this. And it's been really wonderful to catch up again. And we hope that the answers and the discussion has been interesting for you as well. Thank you.